Hello, welcome back. We're going to take a look today at who you really are. Nothing more, and certainly nothing less. Let no one say this course beats around the bush and doesn't go directly to the heart of the matter. There are over 1,000 pages of A Course in Miracles because we need repetition, not because the ideas themselves are difficult. It's we ourselves that make them difficult because we're not ready to accept them, quite simply. So perhaps today will be the day where you're inspired in some way to accept these ideas, to listen to the guidance of your inner teacher, and to put these ideas into practice. That's the hope that I have in turning on the camera and microphone and offering this video to you. I have no idea, other than a general outline, what is going to be said today that inspires you to accept atonement for yourself and inspires you to practice. But if you tune in to the end, there will be at least something that lands for you. And if nothing lands for you, so be it. But you're interested in spirituality. You're interested in this course in particular when there are so many other doors. So what is it that's going to really hit home for you today? And it's always worth going into viewing any video, reading any passage of any spiritual text, or watching any spiritually themed video from any tradition in the world. Anything at all. It's always worth going in with what we call in Zen Buddhism beginner's mind. You may have heard the term. Going in with an open mind, basically. That's what it is. It's going in with a mindset that you don't know everything and you're seeing this material with a blank slate. In other words, you're seeing it anew for the first time with a beginner's mind, not assuming that you have all of the answers. Because when we go into anything in life with that mindset, we're not fully attentive, we're not listening, and we're not present, so we're not there. So that is my invitation to you to set all of your expectations aside, especially when studying this course. There is no world. Central teaching of A Course in Miracles, again, you heard that right. There is no world. You're not a body. You've never left your source, i.e., God, source with a capital S, as we'll talk about today. So some ideas that run absolutely 180 degrees contrary to the way we're raised in the world and conditioned in the world. Yet here you are exploring them. So whatever lands for you, know that it is your inner teacher speaking to you. And it would be very kind of you to listen to your inner teacher's guidance and act on it. Yes, very kind indeed. So we've moved on to chapter 7 of the text of A Course in Miracles, the gifts of the kingdom, and we're going in order. How long will it take? I don't know. As much time as it needs and requires. I mean, as adult learners, as stubborn adult learners, we need to hear things over and over, and we need to see them on different days, presented in slightly different formats. And in fact, there is no difference in any of these messages. It's simply the outward form, and it's simply where you happen to find yourself on a given day. Who knows when something will really land? In fact, who knows when awakening will actually come? And maybe for you, it's going to be today in the next 15 minutes. And if it is, please let me know so I can interview you here, right here on this channel. I would love to do that. Now, in the event that it's not in the next 15 minutes, let's spend that time thinking about these ideas and taking a look at who we really are. So here in this very first section here of chapter 7 of the text, Jesus spends some time talking about creation, how it works, how it operates, and who we really are. So creation flows from God to you, and you create in the same fashion. You were created by God, just as I was created by God, and your worst political enemy, by the way, was created by God, and we create in exactly the same fashion by extending who we are, love. It's in that manner. God is the creator, and here in the text of A Course in Miracles, we talk a little bit about what is known as the authority problem, because the ego thinks it's God, pretty much. The ego thinks it is in control and would love to usurp God's place, but that's impossible, because the ego is simply a mistake. The separation never occurred. So a couple of minutes ago, I referenced accepting atonement for yourself. So if you're not familiar with that term in A Course in Miracles, we're not talking about atoning for someone's actions. We're not talking about getting revenge against your neighbor for something that he or she may have done. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the correction of the Holy Spirit. In other words, the correction of your inner teacher, accepting your inner teacher's correction for yourself. Central to this is the idea, the acknowledgement that the separation never occurred. You're not separate from God. Ideas leave not their source. Your thoughts, your creations are not separate from you, who are not separate from God. It's a never-ending extension flowing from God outward, if you prefer to see it that way. It's a never-ending extension. Love, God, cannot be contained. You, love, cannot be contained. Your creation's love cannot be contained and extend forever and ever and ever. Completely outside of time, which doesn't exist either. It's eternity. Creation is eternal. It's going on. There's a very helpful example here in the first paragraph when we think about how confused we might get with this. That's a relatively simple idea that love extends itself, God extends himself. And that's a pretty simple idea, but we're liable to go off and want to intellectually parse that out, categorize it and subcategorize it with all of our labels, like time. Exactly when did that occur? Did it occur at 11:58 p.m. or 11:59? With our mental scalpels, we'll attempt to dissect and parse out something like taking apart a complex piece of machinery and strewing the parts all over the floor and not being able to put it back together again because we messed it up so badly. The only solution is just to leave it. Leave the complex machinery making. Leave it aside. It's not necessary. This is the number one hang-up that we see with students of this course, is this pressing need to over intellectualize, to overthink. Now, think about this. This is not just in the study of A Course in Miracles where we overthink things. It's in every aspect of our life where we take a look and analyze and we plot and we plan. And what if so-and-so says this? What if this happens? We need to have a backup plan in place. And we're spending all of this time on a future event that may never come to pass, or we're rehashing the past. We're basing our future plans on past, maybe mistakes, situations that are gone, and we're not present. We're nowhere. We're not present. We're not here. We spend almost all of our existence worrying about the future or concerning ourselves over past events that are gone, just gone. So let's be very, very honest with ourselves. This is an invitation that we all receive from our inner teacher to just look at things honestly and allow our inner teacher to correct our perception. When we suffer and see ourselves as cut off, separate, struggling on the struggle bus, we're simply perceiving wrongly. This course is a course in learning to perceive correctly. So the analogy here is parents give birth to children who then become parents themselves. That's an analogy from here in the world. So the point is that the child doesn't create the parent. We don't create God. God creates us, and we create like God. God created us by extending himself. Yes, the verbal math is quite correct if you're doing it. God created us by extending himself. Who are you? Yeah. Yes. God created you by extending himself. By extending himself as you. Paragraph 5, if you want to look it up. God created you by extending himself as you. That's really all we need to say. Who are you? In truth, beyond all of the appearances, the image that you see when you look in the mirror, the image that you see on your social media feed, your carefully curated social media feeds where everything's photoshopped. Beyond all of that, beyond all of your concepts and ideas and labels of who you are, what you do for a living, your gender, your ethnic makeup, your nationality and citizenship, all of those labels, they're labels, and they're not you. They're simply things we've made up. When you look beyond all of that, you'll see who you are. And having this conversation today, with the repetition, deliberately placed, of course, is an offering from your inner teacher to you to accept atonement for yourself, to accept correct perception for yourself, to see things, to allow yourself to see things as they are, rather than how we've made them, how we'd have them be. How we'd have them be is not the way they are. And in case you're wondering which one's more fun, how things are, not the way we make them. Because how things are is eternal. Love is eternal. Your joy, your limitlessness is eternal. And here in the world, our joy is fleeting. even if you're having an incredibly good decade or an incredibly good lifetime where you happen to be wealthy, for example, or you happen to enjoy really great physical health, you never get sick, you've never suffered a chronic condition, right? You're in good health, and you have shiny toys and stuff like that. It's all completely impermanent. And why is all of that impermanent here in the world? There is no world. Who you are is not of this world. Here we appear to find ourselves. It's a dream. So, some ideas that you weren't necessarily taught growing up. I certainly wasn't taught these in Sunday school. I mention this from time to time because I know that a number of you can relate. Now, this course is universal if you're new to it. It uses terms from the Judeo Christian realm, such as God, the Holy Spirit, you know, and it also uses a very prominent term from Eastern philosophy, the ego, which you'll know full well if you've ever studied Buddhism. So it really actually is universal. The course is a self-study course. So anyone of any religious or spiritual background is welcome to delve into this, and I invite you to do it. Please, please. It's for everybody. Now, there are plenty of people that study A Course in Miracles in conjunction with a religious or spiritual tradition that they currently practice. It helps them inform their own walk. It helps elucidate their own background and teachings and shed some new light on it. That's very, very good and very common. Or you could choose to adopt this course as your own primary spiritual practice, which you could most certainly do. So, however you use this material, it's really, really important to connect with your inner teacher. It's your inner teacher that's part of your mind, by the way. The part of your mind that is what we call here in A Course in Miracles the voice for God, that speaks for God, that speaks for truth, and speaks to you, if you let it, speak to you of who you really are. There's a tremendous amount of allowing here. We allow truth to be just as it is. God extended himself as you. Who are you, really, truly? So it's worth repeating that you didn't create God. That's not the way it works. That's impossible. So anytime you have doubts about who you really are, understand that all doubts are of the ego, and it's the ego talking to you. It's worth recognizing that because you may be experiencing tremendous doubt right now as you watch this video. You are welcome and free to doubt and question any spiritual teacher ever. And if they say you're not, run because you are, of course, right? This is how we learn, is we question things. And I invite you to do that. So if you don't resonate with what's coming out of my mouth, it only appears to be coming out of my mouth. When something lands for you, it's your inner teacher speaking to you. It is. It is. Your inner teacher is what has you watching this. That's why we enter what we call the spiritual path in the first place, because we know there's something more than simply this thing that lasts 80 years if we're lucky, and possibly a lot less than that, as we know, right? It's very, very important to question. But don't stop just questioning what appears to come out of my mouth. I am a pixelated image on your screen. That is a double entendre. This is a pixelated image on your screen. And when you look at other people, it's also a pixelated image on your screen. All of this is in your mind. When you experience frustration and sadness, it's an opportunity to forgive. When you experience joy, it's symbolic. That is symbolic of your own limitlessness and beauty as Christ. Christ is the thought of God, the extension of God, not just the historical Jesus, whom, of course, we refer to as Christ. It's the Christ. We're all included in that. It's all inclusive. And I don't mean an all-inclusive resort with a swim-up bar. You know what I mean. So I invite you to question. It's very, very important. In fact, in the workbook for students, Jesus invites us as we study this material to question everything, but don't stop at just what you read on someone's social media feed or what appears to come out of someone's mouth on YouTube. Question the very foundations of everything that you've ever been taught and that you now believe. Ooh, yeah, don't stop. Keep going and question the foundations, the very foundations of your thought system. In other words, the very foundations of everything you now believe. Will it be scary? Yep. Will you push through it? Of course. Of course. Just recognize that that voice in your mind that wants you to stop and go back to where you were, to play it safe, so to speak, is the ego, which of course will do anything to distract you. Isn't it time that you set that voice aside? Question the very foundations of everything you now believe. When you allow yourself to do that, ideas such as, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me, begin to make more sense. By the way, that's from the workbook for students with the rhyming deliberate so that it may stick in your mind. Ideas such as, there is no world. Of course there's not. We're not really human beings. We're spirit. Like extends like. God extends himself as you. God is not a human being with 80 years of life if he's lucky. No. Like extends like. So, to wrap it up with something that we mentioned earlier, with very, very deep conversations. It should be, shouldn't it? I mean, here's the deal. You deserve nothing less than deep conversations about the nature of reality itself. We're not going to mess around here, and we're not going to waste your time. You're watching this because you're done with all of that time wasting. Quite honestly, aren't you? I mean, aren't you really? Why else would you be tuned in to this video, this channel, amidst all of the channels that exist on YouTube alone, much less the internet in general? Here you are. We're not going to waste your time. The ideas from this course are very simple. They're disarmingly simple. And that is the operative word, disarming. We are the ones that complicate everything in life. We make our own complications, and it's needless. Our own complications and orchestrations and manipulations and subdivisions and planning all of life out to the minutest detail, the most minute thing. And we're going to go here at 3:17 p.m. And then at 3:31 and 25 seconds, we're going to be here. And then we've got this and that. Fortunately, reality is much simpler than that. We have only to allow it. So may you do so today. All right. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. If you have comments or questions, I really do welcome them here. The spiritual path lends itself to questioning. I mean, I just spent some time inviting you to question the very foundations of everything you now believe. So it is completely understandable, and it makes sense that you may have some questions about this material. And if you do, please feel welcome to leave them here, and I would love to hear from you. Now, if it is something that you consider more private in nature, you are most welcome to email me. The email address is in my bio here on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. The subscription button's the arrow here in the corner of our screen. Yeah, go ahead and click that subscription button. We'd love to have you join us. All right, so we're not going to waste your time here. Yes, this course cuts right to the heart of the matter. No fluff, no messing around. And isn't that what you really want? The peace of God. All right. Thank you for joining me.